topic just show, I want to talk about something beyond the war. Look like I'm in the city of the Winter Fair, where I'm a night watcher. Want to talk about icy world behind the war, big war. But it is not a winter fair. It is New York. It is a free city, so that's the reason. That was also the reason Chen Guangcheng, the blind activist, flew from China to stay in New York, this NYU to study. And also it is free because I can see in the park nearby young people dancing, And also in this country, people love dance. The famous TV program is You Think You Can Dance. But just imagine someday, if you want to dance, suddenly someone just slap you on the face. Then, after a while, you want to dance again and again, slap on your face. Again and again, you understand something you can't do, so you stop dancing. That, if this city, you can't dance, but it's still booming. New York without dancing, that is Internet China. That means we have the biggest population of the Internet users, but we have the strongest censorship. But the most scary thing about this kind of censorship, about clapping, is not you stop dancing. It's after you stop dancing in New York, if you go to other cities like DC, you still don't want to dance. Just like Chinese students studied overseas, they still keep the same education ideas about propaganda things. If you let them to talk about democracy, they're still scared of talking about, even they are living in a free city. We call it self-censorship. Sometimes self-censorship is more serious than censorship ever. So today, I will give you a picture about what is the censorship and the self-censorship world look like inside China behind the wall. In China, we have about 500 million internet users and 300 million microbloggers who can use the cell phone to tweet. But of course, it's the Chinese Twitter. It's Sina Weibo. But 300 million microbloggers is the same population of the United States. But it's a little different because those Sina Weibo, this Weibo, the Chinese Twitter, it's not like the English Twitter, the worldwide Twitter. It is self-censored. You have YouTube. We have Youku. You have Facebook. We have Renren. You have YouTube. You have Twitter. We have Xingnan Weibo. We almost blocking every international Web 2.0 services, and we copycat everything. That's this Internet China. So Chinese government learn a lot from the Arab Spring. Arab Spring, we have two lessons for Chinese government. First, you can't be Egypt, because Egypt shut down all the internet, then put everyone go on street. And also you can't be Tunisia, because Tunisia tried to block Facebook. But for 10 days ago, after 10 days, they just stop. The protester can still post the pictures about, his president, their president on the Facebook. So China learned the lessons from Arab Spring. They don't want the Arab Spring happen in China. They learn in this way. First, block every Web 2.0 services. Second, copycat everything. But the most important thing is keep the server in Beijing's hand. Social media is people's need. Even Chinese, we also need social media and social networking. So Chinese government decide to satisfy Chinese people's need for the social media, but at the same time, want to limit the threat to the regime, so keep every server in Beijing. If you can keep the server in Beijing, basically you can control all the data to know the data mapping all the relationship of the protesters and the dissidents. But still, though, Chinese Weibo, a platform of 300 million social media, changed China. Part of the reason is because Chinese languages. For example, I give an example. The Twitter has a limitation of 140 characters. In English, means 140 letters. That means a sentence, right? So English tweets is always about a title or a sentence with a link. But Chinese characters, really characters. 140 characters means a passage, means a story. You don't need any of the link. You can post almost the whole story in one tweet. That's the reason, since Twitter and then the copycat of Xinjiang Weibo became popular inside China in 2009, the social media in China was a media, not so like a social media. Because people really get the information from the social media platform, including Weibo. Not only that, because now we have about 300 million microblogger Weibo users can use very cheap cell phone to tweet everything they want, except politics. But before, for example, if you are a victim of a demolition house cases in the remote countryside, if you want justice, you can't find justice in the among the local thugs. So the only way for you is went to Beijing to petition. We call them petitioner, 上访者. But also, if so many petitioners go to Beijing, that means a threat to the capital. That means the risk of the revolution. So Chinese government, along with the local government, also want to send back those petitioners to their hometown, not put so many risks to the capital. But now we have Weibo, we have cell phone. So we do the Weibo petition. You basically tweet about a misery story. And you may have the chance to pick up by, like the central media journalist or a liberal professor. And it will become a really big story on the Chinese internet. So Chinese Weibo really let the voiceless people have the channel and access to the media and the traditional media can't have. But also, Chinese Weibo not only give the weak people, but also give the VIP people, give the celebrities a power. Because before, there is no free media in China. There is no election. Basically, if you are, for example, you are a banker, you are actor, you can't talk about politics. But now, 300 million people just gather in one platform, and the Xinjiang company literally copy the structure on the ground to the Weibo. For example, if you are a rich guy in the reality, you may have more followers on the Xinjiang Weibo. The microbloggers in China is not equal. More rich, more you're famous, you will have the more, promoting by the Xinjiang company. So basically, all the celebrities already being in the Xinjiang Weibo. So that's why it's only big chat room, but everyone, important here with all the resources. So everyone start to talk about social justice. That's the reason Xinjiang Weibo now become the biggest public sphere inside China. Almost every day, people just focus on that. All the media is chasing that, including international media. But so good, because even now the famous actress and the famous lawyers, famous professors talk about social justice. It is sound good, right? But but sometimes, but also it have limitation. Big limitation is because of censorship and self-censorship. Celebrities on the ground, in the reality, also means you accept the self-censorship rule with the regime. That means even you go online in the social media, you still was very good at being self-censored. People, of course, like people mentioned, we can use different words to describe cases. But also, it turns out, eventually, it didn't turn out become action. It becomes entertainment. People find, the NGOs was cut off their funding from the overseas. Now on the Xinjiang Weibo, the biggest NGO activity is charity, because charity is safe, most safe way for the celebrities to show their kindness to social justice. They have the limitation, a political limitation, because by design, Twitter was blocked in the 2009 of the July, and the Xinjiang Weibo was funded 1 month after that. They get blessed by the Chinese government because they already convinced the Chinese government, I self-censor everything serious to you. And of course, you government can access data anytime you want. But still, little bit of change, not only about self-censorship, it's not about, it only talk about social media thing, but also change dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, in the train crash mentioned by last speech, when the train crash happened, in the first 5 days, there were about 10 million criticism to the railway ministry on the internet, and there is literally no censorship at all. Why people have, people thought it was like, really was like a United States, because people can talk about everything at the first 5 days. But the 6-day censorship can. But why people, central government, want to have a free window of 5 days freedom of speech? Because the railway ministry, little bit like independent kingdom, even the central government want to mobilize the people, use the Mao Zedong strategy, mobilize the people to fight against the factions, including the railway ministry. And also Bo Xilai, you heard about that, the very famous one of the top leader in China. His assistant defected to the US consulate in Chengdu. But it's weird also because since from the February to the April, on the Chinese internet at Weibo, you make a joke, even search about Bo Xilai case. And everything leaking, international report, the coverage is about Bo Xilai, the news basically was leaked from the Weibo, social media. Why Chinese allow people rumored about, Bo Xilai? It's also because the central government versus the local fight, because they don't want the local faction to win the battlefield of the Chinese internet. Server is in Beijing. That means only Beijing can censor everything. If you are a local government, you will conveniently become the target of the criticism. So every day on the Chinese internet, you can find the cases against local government. They have no way. Maybe they can do something for 50-cent party, or they hire people to write good words about them, or bribe the central agency to help them to delete the data or the content in Beijing. But still, you need time. Basically, central government control everything. So in the past 3 years, when we always say cat and mouse game. That means government versus the citizens. But in China, in the past 3 years, it's cats and mice. Not only one government, but also government and local, central government and local government. I can't say who is the winner, but definitely in the past 3 years, local government and the local factions were the losers. And also, it's local government step by step, open up their government and make things more transparent little by little. So, still, people like me don't like the 新浪 Weibo because I don't want to accept the self-censorship. We use the VPN and the Tor to circumvent the internet. We call that this kind of use the circumvention to access the internet. We call it internet free concession of internet China. We want to leave the concession because I don't want to be censored and self-censored. Once you accept the censorship, the self-censor will really occupy your mind. But the censorship, the self-censorship, is not only about inside China, but also about the world. Myself, my blog was removed in 2005 by Microsoft, the American company. And I also have a little bit problem with the Facebook. But I think we can sort of solve that after that. But not only that, we are fighting here. We are fighting inside China, use various ways we use the money. For example, the VPN expensive, $60 per one a year. We call that internet tax. But we prefer to pay the internet tax to get the freedom. But we fight here, but we heard of another news from the United States and Europe that people give up free internet. About, for example, SOPA, PIPA, and ACTA. And also I heard about ITU want to take over the internet, the free internet. I may think, guys, China don't need rescue. Chinese people, Chinese democracy only can begin by ourselves. But we need you fight for your own freedom. So I urge everyone here to, together with Chinese bloggers, microbloggers, and freedom lovers, to fight anyone on the road between us and free internet. Wherever they are in, for example, in Beijing or DC or Brussels, because only this, we fight for our freedom, to fight against any bias to, want to monitor and politicizing the world internet. Because only this, in the future, our kids will tell us, thank you, Dad, because of you and your friends, we can dance here on the street and online. So thank you, everyone, being here and being with me in the future, and let's dance.